Okay, welcome to Pre-AP English Language Arts 8th grade with Mrs. Patton. And our whole focus of our year will be around the idea of relationships or relationship. Sorry, it looks funny. I haven't learned how to write very well with this stylus. Anyway, so tonight what I want you to do is I want you to take notes on relationship or relationships. I want you to do it Cornell style, which I talked to you about today in class, and you also already probably know how to do it. So, first thing I want you to do on the left-hand side is write let me start over, sorry. At the top, write relationship. On the left-hand side, I want you to put definition, and then I want you to take a couple of minutes right now and write what you think the definition of relationship is. And what this in your own words. Don't look it up. You can do that later if you want. But for right now, what's your first thought, your first response when you hear the word relationship? Write that down. Then when you have that done, then come back and continue with this presentation. Okay, for your next section on your Cornell notes, I want you to do personal. So write the word personal, and then I want you to think about what are the personal relationships that you have. What are personal relationships? Give some examples. Do all that on the right-hand side. When you get done with that, come back and go to the next slide. Okay, the next section is going to be, I'm not quite sure how to label it, but I guess we'll just say big group. We're kind of moving from a small look at something and we're gradually getting bigger, and we're going to look at it in multiple ways, and then we'll come back in again. So what we're doing is called divergent thinking, and then we'll do convergent thinking. And I'll talk more about that in class, so you'll get that stuff later. So for right now, this time we're going to do big group relationships. So when I say that, I mean like not one person to one person or one entity to one entity, but I want you to think on a bigger scale in thinking about relationships that groups may have. And we don't need to define what they are, but just think about the potential of what relationships could be. It could be something like the dairy farms and the grocery store. They obviously have a relationship. You could think about the trash landfill and the surrounding communities or towns or whatever we have around. So I want you to think in a bigger, from last time was about like a one-to-one relationship, and now we're moving to a bigger look at relationships where whatever the item is we're thinking about, it is not composed of one thing, it's composed of multiple things. Oh, back onto the personal one-to-one relationships. Do not neglect also the relationships you have within yourself. Sorry, I should have said that before, but I just thought of it as well. Because you have a personal relationship with yourself as well. So don't neglect yourself. So back to this one, big group. So thinking bigger, expanding your thought process and thinking about relationships of large groups, entities to one other large group entity. It could be also, you can even do, say, like disciplines, like is there a relationship between science and math? What do they have in common, or what? We'll talk more about what you give the relationship. Okay, so jot down your ideas. When you're done, come back to the presentation. Okay, for your next category on the left-hand side, I want you to do global. Global is worldwide. So what are some worldwide relationships that you think are out there? I don't want to give any examples because then I kind of stifle your thinking, because I'm not looking for one particular or any particular at all. I want to know what you think. So the more you think and the more you share your thinking, the better we all are, instead of you all wanting to say what Mrs. Patton said. Because Mrs. Patton only has her thoughts, and we're far more powerful when we have everybody's thoughts going. So think globally. What are some global relationships that occur in our lives? Okay, so you're just listing them again. So write global on the left and write the examples you can think of on the right hand side. When you're done with that, come back to the presentation. Okay, for this next category, I want you to kind of take a different look at the whole idea of relationships. Since this is our universal theme that we're working with the whole year, we'll be looking at all types of relationships, and then we will look at how some relationships impact other relationships. So not just one thing to one thing, but relationships impacting relationships. I know that may sound really bizarre, but you'll get better at it, trust me. So for this category, I want you to label it abstract. What are some abstract ideas, abstract relationships? And what do I mean by that? Abstract are things that are not tangible. Tangible is touchable, you can feel it, smell it, it has senses to it. But I'm thinking about things like time, ideas, and if we narrow it down to even looking within the context of the course of study that we're looking at, which is English language arts, so the arts of language. And if we look particularly, say, something like at a piece of literature, what is the relationship between, is there a relationship between the characters the author chooses and the particular theme that they're trying to get across in their piece? So those are abstract ideas. The other thing I'm thinking about our discipline we're working within language arts would be things like, is there a relationship, or the relationships between words you choose and the sentences they create? Continuing that, the sentences you create to the paragraphs you create, to the whole piece that those paragraphs create, and then the whole piece to life, into humanity and all of us. So take a minute and jot down some ideas you might have about some abstract relationships, and then come back to the presentation. Okay, for this category, I want you to label it judgment. Hey, I'm getting better at this writing. Oh, maybe not. Okay, judgment. And what I want you to think about is that, are all relationships equal? Or are some bad, some good? If we're thinking about science, are some symbiotic? Are some, what's the word when the parasitic? What type of relationships can we have? And are there benefits that are gained from all relationships? Are there any benefits to negative relationships? So thinking about the judgments, what are the, I don't want to call them types, but what are the possibilities for the interactions of whatever it is we're looking at and thinking about in the relationship? What kind of relationship could they have? What kind of interaction could they have? I hope that sort of makes sense. I'm not sure. It'll be easier when we can talk and go over it. But give it your best shot. What do you think about judgments of, if you're judging it, is it good, bad? That's very simplistic thinking, but think about that and jot down some notes about what you've come up with for judgment, and then come back to the presentation. Okay, last slide. For this one, I want you to really take a close look at all the things you just thought about. And I want you to go back to the definition you had at the beginning. And for this last category, I want you to redefine what you think relationship means, the definition of it. So go back and look over, what did you put down your notes for? Personal, one-to-one, those social relationships, then moving to bigger groups, one to another within disciplines, and then thinking about your global ideas that you put down, and then going away from any human aspect, sort of, because ideas come from humans, but then going into abstract relationships and thinking about those, and then looking at the judgment section and how you evaluated or how you deemed if they were whatever you put down for your categories there. And then come up with another definition. Refine your definition for what you first started with. Now, after you've done this really great thinking, then make sure you bring your notes tomorrow. I can't wait to see and hear your great thinking, and we'll have a discussion tomorrow about this. So please make sure you bring your notes to class tomorrow. It'll be your first homework assignment that you will be getting credit for in homework, so please do not forget to do your homework. Or bring it in. You're obviously doing it since you're listening to me, but make sure that you bring it in. Okay? All right, if you have any questions, send me a message through the Ning, and I'll try to get back to you. All right? Look forward to hearing what you had to think. Thank you.